The lighthouse keeper and the sailor. The storm raged on, its fury unabated as it pummeled the rocky coast. Elara stood steadfast at the top of the lighthouse, her eyes fixed on the turbulent sea below. She had seen many a tempest in her years as keeper, but this one was different. The winds howled like a chorus of banshees, and the waves crashed against the shore with a force that threatened to shatter the very foundations of the tower. As she scanned the horizon, a cry for help pierced the din of the storm. Elara's heart skipped a beat as she spotted a ship in distress, its mast snapped, and its hull battered by the relentless pounding of the waves. Without hesitation, she sprang into action, racing down the winding staircase to the signal room. She worked with precision and speed, sending out a series of Morse code signals that flashed across the darkness like a beacon of hope. As she transmitted the SOS messages, Elara's thoughts turned to the sailors on board that doomed ship. She hoped against hope that they would see her lights in time. The next morning, dawn broke over the battered vessel, its crew struggling to stay afloat amidst the wreckage. Elara's eyes burned with a mix of exhaustion and relief as she watched from the lighthouse window. The storm had passed, leaving behind a trail of devastation, but also a glimmer of hope. As the sailors began to make their way towards shore, one figure in particular caught her attention, a young man, his face bruised and his eyes sunken, clinging to a piece of debris as it drifted towards the rocky beach. Elara's heart went out to him. She knew that look all too well, the look of desperation, of resignation. She hastened down to the landing, her legs aching from the long vigil, and helped the young man ashore. As he stumbled onto dry land, Elara supported his weight, fighting back tears as she saw the anguish in his eyes. She wrapped him in a warm blanket, led him to the warmth of the lighthouse, and brewed some tea to revive him. His name was Elias, and over the next few days they shared stories of their lives, hers as a lighthouse keeper, his as a sailor on the high seas. Elara learned about the thrill of adventure, the camaraderie of life at sea, and the terror of being trapped in a storm like the one that had almost taken Elias' life. Elias, in turn, was fascinated by Elara's tales of light and darkness, of guiding ships to safety under her watchful eye. As they shared their dreams and fears with each other, their bond grew stronger. Elara found herself opening up to this young stranger, revealing secrets she'd kept hidden for years, the doubts about her own path, the longing for connection beyond the duties of her role as lighthouse keeper. Elias, too, confided in her, speaking of his desire to find purpose beyond the sea. In those fleeting moments of calm between the raging storms, they discovered a connection that transcended their respective worlds. When Elias finally prepared to leave, Elara felt a pang of sadness at the thought of saying goodbye. But as he departed, he left behind a promise he would find his way back to her light whenever the sea called him home. Years went by, and Elara continued to tend the lighthouse, guiding ships through the treacherous waters. She often wondered if Elias had kept his word, sailing the seas once more under the watchful eye of her beacon. Little did she know that he had indeed returned, driven by a newfound sense of purpose. Elias had spent years exploring the world, seeking adventure and making a name for himself as a skilled sailor. But despite his success, he found himself restless, feeling an inexplicable pull to return to the coast where Elara's light had saved him from the jaws of death. The day arrived when Elias set sail once more, this time with a cargo of stories, wisdom, and memories accumulated over the years. As he navigated the familiar waters, his eyes locked onto the distant lighthouse, the same beacon that had guided him to safety all those years ago. Elara stood at the top of the tower, her heart racing as she spotted Elias' ship on the horizon. A mix of emotions tumbled through her, joy, surprise, and a hint of trepidation. What would he be like now? Had his experiences changed him? As Elias docked his vessel and made his way up to the landing, Elara's anticipation grew. They exchanged warm smiles, the years melting away as they fell into each other's arms. Over dinner that night, they shared stories of their journey, of triumphs and setbacks, of loves and losses. Elara learned about Elias' experiences on the high seas, of the people he'd met and the challenges he'd overcome. In turn, she told him about her own struggles as a lighthouse keeper, about the isolation and the loneliness. As they reminisced about their past, they discovered that their bond had only grown stronger with time. They found solace in each other's company, their connection rekindled like a warm ember waiting to be fanned back to life. In those moments of quiet intimacy, Elara realized that Elias' return was not just a reunion, it was a reminder that even in the darkest depths of the ocean, there was always hope. And as they gazed out at the sea, now calm and serene beneath their feet, she knew that their love would forever be guided by the beacon of her lighthouse. Years later, when Elara passed on, Elias returned to pay his respects to the woman who had saved him from the jaws of death. He stood before the old lighthouse, now replaced with a new one, but still bearing the same spirit and the memories that would forever tie their hearts together. As he looked out at the sea, now bathed in the warm glow of sunset, Elias knew that Elara's light had never truly faded. It shone brightly within his heart, guiding him through the turbulent waters of life. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the waves, he whispered her name, Elara, knowing that she would always be with him, her spirit forever lighthouse keeping in the darkness, shining bright for all those who needed guidance on their journey home.